What happens when the voices that once guided us begin to fade into silence? In today's world where people question faith, lose trust in institution, and grow distant from tradition, one quiet story from the past still speaks to the present. Hello there, folks. I am Liza, and this is Myth and Meanings. Here we bring reflections from pages that echo through time. In this episode, we enter the world of N.V.M. Gonzales, the old priest, a story of legacy, silence, and the slow fading of sacred in a world too loud to listen. The old priest of Nauhan still frequently visited the barrios scattered along the coast of southern Mindoro. He enjoyed sailing very much, and when the weather permitted, he would hire a paro. Otherwise, he set out on foot, making indeed a sight of his old self as he hopped down the long stretches of the beach. Once the Bishop of Lipa sent a young priest, Padre Paulino, to Nauhan. He preached several sermons and made the people clap their tongues in admiration. But he left a disappointed man, for the old priest could not be prevailed upon to retire. They walked down the main street of Nauhan together to the beach, where a sailing boat which was to take the young priest back to Lipa. That night swung at anchor. The old priest was telling the young priest of the trip he intended to take to the south, to places like Bulalakaw, Wasig, Sukol, Sumagni. The very sound of these strange names astorted Padre Paulino, and he asked, "Do you mean there are still pagans there?" And the old priest exclaimed, "Why, a whole race of them! You should come along and do a little preaching in those parts." Padre Paulino smiled shamefacedly. He had a great fear of the sea. He dreamed even the trip back to Batangas and Lipa, and the sight of a sailboat was enough to make him wince. Lined up along the beach were the dugouts owned by the fishermen, in which the old priest traveled, and how he pointed to them proudly. "Look, those are my seaworthy galleons!" Then he told of how he pitched his camp on the seashore, constructed makeshift altars in the coconut groves, sometimes joined in holy wedlock couples who had already lived half their lives together, and baptized those youth who had grown up and become fathers and cleared land for their own. And he told the young priest of how he talked to the people about God. Padre Paulino was moved, but also felt himself somehow insulted by the old priest's fervor. Only when some fishermen's children came down to the beach did the old priest stop talking about himself and his work. "Jose, Juan, Vita, and you, Adolfo!" He called out to the children, and when they came to him, he blessed them one by one, and they clung to his cassock before running off to play. The twilight came steadily, and the angelus sounded the clear, sweet notes of the bell lightering along in the air. Then came tall, dark, and husky men, their nets off their shoulders, for it was time to set out fishing. That evening, at moonrise, Padre Paulino sailed for Lipa. A week later, after rightening sundry affairs in the parish, the old priest left too. The wind was fair that day, and the convento at the church tower were soon lost in the green haze of the fading coastline. The old priest was happy as the wind bore him on. He let the sun burn his face until it was as red as macapa fruit, and the boatman bade him sit near the mast, where the sail cast its cool little shade. By nightfall, they sighted Sokol Point, but as the village was upriver, it was deep into the night before they got there. The village was unusually quiet. Not even a dog was to be heard. But through the dim lights in the huts seems inviting, the old priest did not want to disturb this peace. No, he would not impose upon the hospitality of the villagers, walking into the place like a governor and demanding lodging. The old priest baptized half a dozen children that morning, and he was told more would be brought to him later that day. It was thus whenever he went, the folk along the coast expecting his visit, with months in advance, tore up such gifts as he would think for him. In the afternoon, Chickens and egg were brought to him, and he thanked and blessed everyone who came. People from the hills would bring him honey and dried venison. Occasionally, one would offer him parakeet. The owner of a coconut plantation in Sokol gave him a parrot that could say, "Buenos dias, Padre." This so delighted the old priest that he had a special mass said for the man. But the priest could be stern too as one of time. As Master Gisi, when he came to the small bamboo and Nipa chapel, he found what blasphemy the altar bare except for a raft overturned backs covered with chicken downright where an image of Nostra Senora de la Paz should have stood. He ordered the place cleaned, and the next day, which was Sunday, he held mass and preached a long, fervent sermon that the people did not soon forget. But that age was steadily telling on the old priest, and time came when he was hardly strong enough to hold up an umbrella. This was not out of faithlessness, but because of a strange change that was coming over the old priest. The old priest was now, for one thing, very irritable, and frequently he threw into fits of violent, ill temper for no apparent reason at all. He also rapidly became more and more gasping and miserly. He would give no thanks for the baskets and fruits and other foodstuffs, and the people still brought him and would say to his sacristans,
"Gather these things up and let's hurry to Nauhan to sell them."
The first time this happened, reports of it spread down the coast like wildfire.
He's so old. He's losing his wits now.
But somebody said, "Perhaps all these years he has been hoarding the silver people have given him, carrying much of it in a bag he conceals under his back robe." No one could tell why it was that soon this tale was believed by everyone in the region. The old priest still continues his visit up and down the coast, but he was not welcome in former times. Once in Wasig, he told the headman he needed a cart to haul these things to the next village. But the carts were all up in the clearing loaded with palay, and it would have taken the whole morning to get a cart down, so he did not get one. On another occasion, he wanted a carabao. "The sea is rough," he said, "and if the priest's belongings were loaded in paro, why they would get wet? And one must be careful with the priest's things. The devil plague you all if you do not take care of the priest." That was the way he spoke now, always referring to himself in the third person as if he were some separate and remote being. This no less than his frequent allusion to the devil. The potters returned to the village with their brain bursting with the discovery that the story of the bag of money was true. And I should say, he had not had his cassock washed since he put it on.
I've heard say he never paints himself.
He has worn off the soles of his alcatraz. Why could he buy himself a new pair with all that money he gets from the people for his candles? He's a miser, a real one, I say. And then people hatch up a scheme to rob him. But it failed, for it rained on the evening set for the tea, and the old priest, who had lodged in a leaky hut near the seashore, was wide awake. He was sleepless for many nights afterwards. He always slept bad now. He knew he was coming to the end of his days, and he felt restless and lost, desperate. Then, in the convento at Nauhan, he had a heart attack. He lay in bed for 7 months, dying a slow death, even as he was being talked about by everyone along the coast, Christian and pagan, who had not heard the latest tale about his umbrella, about his alpargatas, about the women who had been given his cassock to wash at last. In the quiet death of the old priest, we hear more than an ending. We hear a reminder that silence holds stories, that fading voices still carry weight, and that sometimes listening in the most human thing is what we can do. Thank you for joining me here on Myth and Meaning, where we believe in the power of literature to reveal truth, past and present. Again, I'm Liza. Until then, and may you always find meaning in the myth we carry.